This is the truth. The way of Mevlevi, the way of Mevlana is the way of Muhammad, is the way of Islam. And I knew I needed to become Muslim. I knew that. So it was that next year where I became a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. At seminary, but I was teaching this and I didn't believe what I was teaching. So after I finished all of those years of school and training and working in the church, I said, I can't do this anymore. And so I left the church. And I said, but now what am I going to do? So I began a career of learning and performing music. I met lots of people, I met lots of things, and did lots of music, but my heart was empty. You know, I was doing music because it was so important and the applause was wonderful and it was a great life, but something was missing. And I called a teacher of mine and I said, I don't know what's missing, I need some help. And he gave me the name of a person to learn with. So he called, we went in, and there was a few of us, some of those Americans were still there with us. And we walked around the courtyard of the tomb. Maqam Chalabi came to me and reached out, took my hand and said, I want to show you something. And so he walked me around to the back side of the museum, underneath the Yeshu Kuba, to a place, I didn't know where I was. And he said to me, this place is called the Niyaz Panjarasi. He called it the wishing window. And Maqam Chalabi brought me there and said, we come here and pray. He says, let me show you. And so he walked up the steps and stood in front of the Niyaz Panjarasi and began to make dua. And I stood there watching him. And I looked around because there was snow on the ground. And there was one single red rose over here that was blooming. It was beautiful. And I turned back and Chalabi had finished praying and he came down. He said, now it's your turn to pray. I said, okay, so I wasn't sure what to do. So I walked up the stairs and I stood in front of the Niyaz Panjarasi and I could see Rumi's sanduka. I could see his sarcophagus. I started to pray. And even as I'm talking about it, I can remember it and feel it. I felt like my heart just ripped open. Just ripped open. I didn't know what to say. And I began to cry. And I mean, I began to cry. Do you remember this? And I came back and I walked, just followed Chalabi. We came back to the courtyard and Dede was with the other Americans and they made zikr. He made zikr there. And so I spoke with Nader Dede in my broken Turkish, half English. He didn't understand any English. I spoke 2 or 3 words in Turkish. And somehow we were communicating and I said to him, I need something from you to learn, to take with me. We went to my hotel room. We got my tape recorder out and I put the tape recorder on the bed, turned it on, and Nader Dede began to make zikr. And I still have that zikr on my telephone today. And he taught me some prayers. And there was Quran. And I knew at that moment Nader Dede was going to be my teacher. And from that moment he has been my teacher, still is my teacher today. You know, I'm not a child, but I know that this was the man to show me the way of Mevlevilik, the way of Mevlana. And we know that the way of Mevlevi is the way of Hazreti Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? The Mevlana yolu, Muhammad yolu. This is the truth. The way of Mevlevi, the way of Mevlana is the way of Muhammad, is the way of Islam. And I knew I needed to become Muslim. I knew that. So it was that next year where I became a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Muslimam oldu. 2006. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam wa ilayka yaudu salam. حينا ربنا بسلام وادخلنا دارك دار السلام صل على سيدنا
Profesor Dr. Victor Fenter mulai tertarik pada ajaran Islam setelah menyelami puisi-puisi karya Jalaluddin Rumi tahun 1207 sampai 1273. Seorang penyair sufistik dari abad ke-13 Masehi. Warga negara Amerika Serikat itu mengaku batinnya tersentuh oleh keindahan kata-kata dan makna yang diguratkan sang Maulana. Menurut Rumi adalah contoh penyair dengan fokus pada sisi spiritualitas manusia. Walaupun Muslim, sang mursyid menyampaikan nilai-nilai yang universal. Satu bait yang menyentuh kalbu profesor tersebut berbicara tentang proses pengenalan diri. Sejak menjadi seorang Muslim, dirinya mengubah nama menjadi Ismail. Profesor tersebut lahir pada tahun 1955 di Carolina Utara. Namun, ia tumbuh besar di Los Angeles, California. Baginya, keluarga adalah faktor terbesar yang memengaruhi pola pikirnya saat anak-anak hingga usia remaja. Pada 2004, Craig menghadiri sebuah seminar tentang kebudayaan di Los Angeles. Secara tidak terduga, dirinya bertemu dengan Esin Bairu. Orang Turki itu merupakan cicit generasi ke-22 dari Rumi. Dalam beberapa bulan, Esin menjalani program belajar di negeri Paman Sam sebelum kembali ke negerinya. Kira-kira setahun kemudian, Craig menerima undangan dari Esin untuk datang ke Konya. Kota di Turki Tengah itu merupakan tempat makam Rumi berada. Dalam suratnya, keturunan sang Maulana tersebut mengajak profesor ini untuk hadir dalam sepi arus, yakni semacam perayaan memperingati legasi sufi tersebut. Craig merasa senang sekali dengan undangan tersebut. Ia pun terbang ke Turki untuk menghadiri agenda acara itu. Bersama dengan Asin, dirinya berangkat ke Konya. Di Museum Mevlana, lelaki Amerika itu larut dalam kemeriahan yang digelar masyarakat muslimin setempat. Semisal pertunjukan tarian sama yang menampilkan sejumlah penari yang bergerak melingkar-lingkar. Ia pun sangat bersyukur karena bisa mengikuti malam puisi Rumi di sana. Craig amat terkesan akan suasana islami di Konya. Ia merasa dirinya seperti mendapatkan keluarga baru di sana. Kepada Esin, sang profesor kemudian mengutarakan keinginannya menjadi seorang muslim. Awalnya, cicit Rumi tersebut tidak menyangka bahwa kawannya akan sampai pada keputusan demikian. Lantas, Craig pun menuturkan sudah mempelajari Islam sebelum berjumpa dengannya. Bahkan dalam suasana tragedi 19 pun, ia tidak ikut-ikutan memandang Muslim sebagai lian yang asing, apalagi musuh. Didampingi Esin, Craig pun mengunjungi kediaman seorang mursyid tarekat setempat. Setelah salam dan perkenalan, keduanya menyampaikan maksud kedatangan. Oleh ulama tersebut, laki Amerika itu diajarkan tentang kalimat syahadat beserta maknanya. Ia pun diceritakan tentang bagaimana Islam bermakna salam, yakni keselamatan dan kepasrahan kepada Allah Ta'ala. Craig mendengarkan penuturan sufi tersebut dengan saksama. Akhirnya, ia pun dibimbing untuk mengucapkan 2 kalimat syahadat. Setelah itu dirinya secara resmi menjadi seorang muslim. Peristiwa ini terjadi pada tahun 2006. Ia mengakui semua agama mengajarkan kebajikan. Akan tetapi, ajaran Islam dalam hal ketuhanan lebih berterima secara rasional. Agama ini mengajarkan perihal tauhid. Ismail mengutip surah Al-Ikhlas yang menegaskan Allah tidak beranak dan tidak pula diperanakan. Sahabat Amira TV, jangan lupa like dan subscribe untuk berlangganan video menarik lainnya dari channel kami. Terima kasih dan sampai jumpa di video berikutnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.